I am the self-appointed head of podcast planning, and what that essentially means is that I'm the guy that sends out the emails and says, okay, this is what we want to talk about this week, or I'm the guy who contacts voice actors and say, hey, do you want to do an interview? And they say, yeah, or they just ignore me and I don't hear anything back. And they're like, did you ever hear back from so-and-so? And I say, nah, but that's okay. In any case. So we will start with introductions.
You want me to go? Thanks. I'm Dylan Wolf. I do basically all the technical stuff for Chainsaw Day, and I'm also a regular contributor.
Yeah, come on, you guys, give me a shot. Or just walk up, it's fine. It's cool.
I go by an alias because we use scandinations in trouble. But yeah, you never heard this. I'm Richard McMullen. Otherwise known as Gothic Gaara from Konoha Corner, which is a Naruto Shippuden and Naruto podcast. And yeah, we just basically talk about anything and everything Naruto. Our schedule is pretty much dictated by Kishimoto and what he's doing.
Yeah, and thanks for being here. We actually had one of our site's co-founders and another one of our contributors that couldn't make it. So I think we've done a fairly decent job. They can't ever be duplicated or replaced, but we at least have some backup in our corner. So let me go ahead and open it up to you guys. What do you guys want to know? Yes.
Just out of curiosity, can like anybody make a podcast as long as they've got the right equipment?
If I can do it, then yes.
Yeah, seriously. Basically, this is the kind of panel that I thought we were supposed to be doing for the podcast roundtable at AWA, and it didn't turn out like that at all. What I thought we were doing is, just basically podcasting for cheap bastards. See, seriously, like anybody can make a podcast. I've had 3 people who have listened to my show either send me a message on Facebook or email our podcast asking how can they start up their own podcast. Actually, last night, right before we started recording the show, I checked the email and we'd gotten a question. Somebody wanted to start a Naruto podcast themselves, and they were asking how we did it. And I sat there and typed up the explanation of what all I did and how I did it. And first and foremost, you want to make sure that you are going to have somebody that can listen to it. As just if you're going to do your pilot, do kind of a rough pilot, because that's how we did it. We did kind of a rough, and I sent it to the guys over at the One Piece podcast and the SSA podcast, and they listened to it and they critiqued me and they gave me some useful advice. So you always want to make sure that you've got somebody that you know that is also a podcaster that can give you useful information, because anybody else would probably be like, sounds good.
I'm pretty sure that's our problem, because we never did that.
Yeah.
And we still don't.
But I mean, for the most part, all I did was I told them how I did it, and I was like, and send us a rough copy when you have what you feel to be completed, so we can kind of critique you and help you out on that. And good luck, competitor.
Dylan, let me ask you a question, because we've been doing this podcast since 2008. The site started in 2007. The podcast started in 2008. And I still don't know the answer to this. What, hardware aside from the laptop? What do we use? What kind of microphone do we got?
I actually brought it.
Y'all are spiffy with y'all.
What?
Oh yeah,
we just use webcams from that.
Well,
we don't do video. We just do audio. We use the mic.
We actually, and a friend of mine actually, he was the one who actually started recording for us. This is a Zoom H4. I think it ran like 250. They make cheaper versions.
Kind of looks like a taser.
Yeah. I don't know. My advice would be to ask other podcasters, not just us, because everyone.
250 is a little steep. I don't think I'm glad I didn't front that.
Right, but for example, we've recorded with AwesomeCast. They've just got a really nice USB condenser mic. You want a good mic that's going to pick up, but there's a lot of stuff you can do with editing it to kind of smooth out the rough edges.
Another big thing, and while equipment is very important, this is something that a lot of first-timers very much overlook, is background noise. If you've got a fan in your room while you're recording, turn it off.
That's all they won't hear you no matter how well you project or speak in the microphone.
Yeah.
They're just going to hear.
No, like seriously, you should always do like a mic check for yourself and then anybody else you have on your podcast. Like, I'm one of the, like, with my podcast crew, it's like really weird because I have people on my crew that are I have people in every single time zone of this country that are on my crew. I've got people that are in Eastern, Central, Mountain, Pacific, and Hawaiian. Well, okay, I don't think we have an Alaska person. So minus Alaska, I've got people in practically every time zone. I've got a person that's on our podcast that is in Romania. I've got our artist that does all of our logos, and bless her for telling us not to pay her, even though we've offered several times because her art is amazing. She does this. She's jumped on the podcast once or twice for special episodes. She lives in the Philippines. Like, it's crazy.
Now, do you use Skype for all of that?
I do use Skype. That's what I use. Skype is an instant messenger. You can download it. It has voice. It is free. Honestly, I know everybody's talking about getting good mics.
Yeah.
Headsets, generally not the greatest bet to go with because the problem is you breathe. You have to. Exactly what I'm saying. You will hear that all the time.
We actually tried giving everyone headsets in the same room, and it didn't turn out well.
I would say probably the best bet is to get like a webcam, and it doesn't even have to be like an expensive webcam. There are great deals on Amazon where you can get an amazing webcam for like $5.
I don't even know if they make these anymore, but they used to have just the plug-in microphones. They're like this, but they're about the size of a pencil.
Right.
Those were like $10 or something, and that at least eliminates the problem.
It depends.
And if you don't shop online and you can't shop online, that's fine. If you just want to deal with cash, I mean, you can still find a decent mic at places like Walmart or something.
If you're not comfortable enough to shop online, podcasting may or may not be the
podcasting is going to be intimidating. Now, just a quick question: how many people are actually interested or thinking about starting their own podcast? It doesn't matter what topic you have. So, all right. I know budget is probably everybody's first word. You could not be more wrong. Budget is the second priority. The first priority is actually making sure you have the time to do it. Because, I mean, what you're thinking about is, oh yeah, I'm going to record it and then I'm going to post it on. No. You're going to edit. You're going to edit and try and make it a decent sound file. And if you're stupid like me and you record things in you're trying to set up different segments for your podcast where, okay, for example, we did a manga recap last night. Well, with our manga recaps, we do podcast news, anything that relates to our podcast itself that we believe our listeners should be aware of. Like if, suddenly we started a YouTube account, or I don't know, I posted a bunch of AMVs that weren't able to be up on YouTube, so I gave YouTube the finger and put them all on our Facebook fan page. So that's what we did. And especially if you're doing with like a crew, there's going to be stuff that you're going to need to edit out too, because last week, we ripped the hell out of Vic Mignogna while recording, and I was like,
he might be listening.
He's not here, and you know what? You know what? We go by fake names. I don't think he's going to be able to find us to come after us. But anyway.
I don't go by a fake name.
No, I do. But I mean, we got into a long discussion about if we do like Vic, if we don't like Vic, and then we slam the hell out of him. So yes, obviously that I was not going to keep on the podcast because I don't want to lose listeners. It's if you're a Vic fan,
or kill your guest relations.
Yeah, exactly. Never have another voice actor on my show again.
Let me ask you guys a quick question, and everyone, please, if you actually have a question, raise your hand. If you're just killing time until something else, that's cool. We'll chill, we'll hang. But Dylan, our podcast usually run anywhere from between like 30 to 40 minutes to an hour. How long does it actually take you to edit it, and what do you use to edit it, just so that they know?
What does it? It takes very little time now. It takes a couple of hours, maybe at most. But I've kind of gotten it down to a science. One thing we do is we don't do a lot of edits. I mean, people are pretty careful not to go over the line on ours. So ours are typically one big long discussion.
Are y'all just a basic podcast, or are you explicit?
We are marked as explicit.
I'm very explicit.
We are marked as explicit too. There's no way we could not be.
What was the first thing that? The first thing that was ever said on our podcast was "fuck the fruit company" because we called it a broadcast instead of a podcast.
Oh.
Yes.
But what I typically do is I run it, we record in Audacity, I open it up, I run noise removal, and then I run it through a program called CN Levelator, which is by Conversation Networks.
No, that and Audacity. That and Audacity, are those both free?
Those are both free.
Okay.
Yes. And I've kind of, lame.
Yeah.
Actually, I think does that come with Audacity?
No, you have to download, all right. When you,
install.
Audacity is a audio editing software, and it's free. You can Google it, you can find it for free. It does not come with an MP3 encoder when you're done with the file. It will just be an Audacity file, which of course cannot be made into a podcast. On the same site that you download Audacity from, it actually has a link, so you can download the lame encoder that is also free. It is freeware, and all it is, you install it, you run through, and then you just get to editing, and then when you're done, you export it as an MP3 into wherever you want to have it, and now you've got your MP3 completely finished. But yeah, lame is very important. If you don't have lame, you're just going to be sitting there with an Audacity file that you can do nothing with.
Basically, I've mixed down our intro and outro, and I just drop them in, export. Of course, we don't have the problem of like trying to splice together, a bunch of different tracks.
Or killing somebody snoring if they fall asleep in the middle of the podcast.
I don't think we've ever ran that.
No, it's not. It's never like that we are like don't have an interesting conversation. It's mostly because due to the time difference between everybody else that's on the podcast, at some point in time, somebody on the Eastern time zone is going to be up at like 1 or 2 in the morning trying to get this thing over with, and they're going to be like,
That's the other thing with podcasting, that it's sort of a secondary thing. Most of the time you have other people involved. Like ours, we have just a rotating door of people. It's usually me, Dylan, and whoever else we can talk into doing it. But what you really have to do is you have to go out and say, hey, what times work for you? And sometimes just be like, you know what, nobody else can do it. Screw it, we'll just do one. And they'll suck and they'll be fine. But you really do have to sort of plan these things out so that everyone has time to sit down, record, talk, they know what they're talking about in advance, and which kills me because I send them the emails, and 100 times out of 100 somebody will get there and be like, what are we talking about? Read the email, people. Just, man.
I mean, thankfully, most people know what to expect that are on our podcast.
Yeah.
Like, we're obviously not going to podcast before the manga comes out because we don't have it. It's not there to read.